welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Nirmal. I'm Hiral, Dadia. We have Deepak Roy, Executive VC and Board Member at Allied Blenders and Distilleries and Chairman of CIABC joining in. Deepak, a very good afternoon to you. Firstly, if you could just help us understand what is the situation on ground with regards to where alcohol consumption goes, because clearly, since I think the lockdown has started, alcohol companies did stop production as well to some extent, plus sales were on a complete standstill.
Not to some extent, to a large extent.
Absolutely. And sales were on a complete standstill, if I'm not mistaken, from then till now. What's the sense that you've picked up?
Okay. Well, just to take, give you a little background of what's been going on, and perhaps I have to take you back 2 or 3 years or maybe 4 years. At the liquor industry till 2016 was growing at an annual average growth of 10%. And that was there till demonetization. Post demonetization, the industry was badly hit because at that time, almost everyone used to buy spirits on a cash basis, and also since 40% of the spirits industry was catering to the SECC and D classes, and where it was essentially people who had daily workers, or what you now call migrant workers. They didn't have any access to cash, and as a result, the industry suffered very badly. Consequently, after the demonetization impact, just when the industry was recovering, there was a Supreme Court judgment, if you recall, around 2017 about no liquor outlets can be within a city limit, and they have to be 500 meters and off the highway. And this created a whole lot of confusion. What was a highway? What was the highway that was passing through the city and everything? And this 1 to 8 months to be resolved. And the industry kept, after this, when things started normalizing, the industry was growing. In the last 4 or 5 years, the industry has grown only around 4 to 5%. The current fiscal, the fiscal that ended March 2019 was going okay till February. The overall market growth was about 3.5%. Essentially, the premium end of the market was growing. The lower end of the market was declining. And in the end of the fiscal, which is 31st March, the final number was about -2% over the previous year. So it was a bad period for the industry. And there are several other factors. I just described the two or three main causes, but also what has been happening is the raw material prices have been increasing. Spirit prices, which 4 years back were prevailing at 25 rupees a liter, jumped up to almost 60 rupees a liter towards the earlier part of the current calendar year, which definitely impacted the profitability. State governments also have been milking this industry by raising taxes, because this is the only, after GST moved to the center, the only source of revenue was essentially spirits, besides the small thing that and they left them with no choice to increase their taxes. Thirdly, several governments in the south, especially Andhra and Telangana, went on a spree of spending, A, to win elections, B, to keep their masses happy. And as a result, the state government controlled monopolies, they were badly impacted as far as the liquidity was concerned. Because earlier the corporations used to keep the money for liquor into liquor, whereas now the money would come in and then it will go to a center or a state pool, and thereafter the state Treasury used to decide how much money to return, and therefore all the liquor companies' outstandings or debts went up from about 30 days, 28 to 30 days to 120 days. And this obviously had a huge impact on the cash flows of the liquor companies, especially the Indian companies. The multinationals always had enough, they were flush with funds, but the Indian companies were badly hit during this period. And now, after this March, there's been no business for 2.5 months now. Some states are slowly announcing lifting of the ban on liquor sales. They started, then stopped. Like Bombay City started, and there were a lot of crowds. So they obviously that was defeating the whole objective of social distancing. The government closed down, and so this year has been the current year, as it was a tough period last year. This is now proving to be a very, very tough year. And I suspect that because of this huge gap in the month of April and May, I think the market this year will probably decline or will lose about 18 to 20% of volume.
That's a big number. So
that's a huge number, because the way I'm calculating is assuming the market will show zero growth, but in two months of absolutely no sales have taken place, which is taking into account an average sale of 8.33% per month, you already lost 16-17%.
Right.
Now back this or couple this with the fact that this, not just the demand end was impacted because the government banned it, but more importantly, production end, production was also closed, and it's going to take a while for the production units to limp back to normalcy. This means that there is also a problem of getting raw materials, packaging materials. All our glass suppliers, everyone are also shut under the lockdown. So getting the materials back, pipelines are very, very thin in this industry. And I think in the euphoria of first 4-5 days sales, the pipeline has got almost, the major brands have all disappeared. There must be some leftover stock, which is good because they will also get sold out, whatever's lying in the pipeline. I expect the business will resume normalcy perhaps around June to middle of June.
Right. So
that's why I'm saying at least 18-20% of the current year's sales is gone.
Right. So if you could just help me understand how much revenue loss will this translate to? Because the last report that I was reading did indicate that by say 30th of April, the estimated revenue loss on the back of alcohol was almost around 24,000 crores. If we have to take this,
that's not incorrect, because the total revenue from spirits is around 2.5 lakh crores a year, 2.4 to 2.5 lakh, depends on how, when, where you calculate it, but that's around the number. So if 1 month will be close to 20-25, and April is always a big month because that's the beginning of a new licensing year. In the concept of liquor, we have to operate through licenses, and these licenses are granted on an annual basis. So pretty much the pipeline is thin when you start at the beginning of the year, which is April. So the April month generally tends to be about 20% higher than a normal month. So therefore, you're right, 24,000 crores is gone.
Right. So overall, right now that, as you mentioned, that most of the alcohol beverage companies have slowly started resuming their operations, at least on the production side. How are things scaling up, especially if you have to look at the supply chain as well? Because you did mention that there is a possibility that, in fact, raw material prices are going up. So by how much are we expecting raw material prices to impact the overall margins?
See, last year itself, from June, you saw a significant inflation in the cost of spirit as well as glass prices. I don't expect the glass prices to go up in the short run because of they have also an underutilized capacity. All the other items which require glass containers and packaging also are hit. So I think glass prices will be stable for the next 8 months. Plus the petroleum, which is a major component of glass prices, is very controlled unless the government starts levying more taxes and more excise, even for glass that goes into the petroleum that goes into manufacturing. So that's the only. But I still feel the glass price will remain stable. It's the raw material prices. I don't know whether the government will still continue in inverted commas foolishly to keep mixing ethanol with petrol. Given the current global prices of oil, it makes no sense to be mixing ethanol because the cost of producing ethanol is anything around 38 to 45 rupees a liter, whereas petrol prices right now being what they are globally, so it makes no sense. So in the event, unless the government does some tinkering around, I think the coming to 10, 12 months, the spirit prices will remain stable, but they're stable after a huge amount of inflation in the previous 6 months.
Right. So overall, what's the sense on the transportation side as well? Because what we're hearing right now is that logistic prices have spurred up because the migrant community has started moving back. So drivers are a problem. So costs in terms of transportation have shot up by almost 4 to 5 times. Do you think that's something which could add to the burden?
I think the four to 5 times is perhaps a little bit of a panic. Yes, when lockdown was declared without any notice, perhaps the only country in which there was no notice given, if you just see Singapore, Japan, everywhere, they gave 4 to 5 days or weeks notice for people to prepare for lockdown. We were suddenly, if the truck was anywhere between Agra and Mumbai, perhaps it was near Indore, the truck had to stop, not even before reaching Indore, but on the road. And the drivers had to and this waited for a couple of days in the truck, maybe they'll be allowed, but then the drivers left the trucks on the roads and ran away, went back to their respective homes. So that is where the logistical challenge is.
Correct.
But I think now that they have also decided from tomorrow that trains will start working, so hopefully the transportation thing is not going to lead to huge amount of inflation. There are challenges of managing the logistics over the next 3 to 4 weeks, but I don't think the petroleum prices, which are a major component of a truck price, is not going to really go up. That's my belief, but very often I've been proven wrong because the market dynamics is something only the transporters can say.
Right. Apart from that, Deepak, there have been sharp excise hikes that have been taken by some of the state governments recently. Do you think that's something which will impact volumes for the industry?
I certainly think they will impact volumes. I mean, let me tell you that I would have been a fool to think that there would be no excise duty increases, given the pressure on the state governments to raise revenues to fight this menace. And one was expecting some amount of excise duty hike, and the consumers also in this situation, as it is even during the lockdown, buying rations, buying food. I spent a lot of time at home, which I never did earlier, and I know that there's been a lot of inflation, and you were paying what the banya asked you for, or what the shopkeeper asked you. You're happy that you got the stuff. So that it has been a bit of a battle. Now going forward, with these high tax increases, I think there is going to be a big setback with the volumes. Especially if there is a normal 4 or 5 rupees a bottle increase, which has happened in states of Haryana, states of Punjab, which is affordable and the consumer can pay it. But in the case of Delhi, look at it, a bottle which used to cost say 400 rupees is now going to cost 700 rupees.
Right.
Similarly, in Andhra Pradesh, the government has gone berserk. They have been increasing taxes on liquor for the last 4 months periodically, and the recent increase is 75% on MRP, which is again about depending on the price, but let's say about prices almost doubling, 70 to 100% increase in prices, because we add other consequent increases as a result of the increase that tax increase that takes place, because margins go up, everything goes up. So it's a very, very steep increase in prices, and there
Right.
is
So,
right now there is
let me
right now.
interrupt you here. The objective of the government over here is to raise more finance, in terms of for the states, and that will not really help if the excise is high, because
Absolutely,
volumes will drop.
that's the point I was coming to. So people believe that the elasticity on liquor prices is almost zero. It doesn't really matter what the price is, but that is not true. Two things happen. One, the overall volume, market volume will shrink, and Beckett, there will be some amount of downgrading that will happen. Imagine a consumer who's drinking officer's choice whiskey, let's say, which is in the regular segment. He will be, and he's a daily wage earner essentially, or a blue collar worker. Essentially, he will have to shift at least sometimes to country liquor. So effectively the volumes are going to be hit in the states in which the increases have been abnormal. 5-10% one would have expected in this situation. But if Delhi government does a 70%, Andhra Pradesh 75%, these are ridiculous, and they will not meet their objective of raising revenues. They will end up in driving liquor trade underground. Smuggling will take place from adjoining states. Andhra and Haryana, which has got a porous border with Delhi, the liquor price bottle per bottle, when the situation becomes normal, will be approximately 150 rupees a bottle at the lower prices. Can you imagine? So what is going to happen? Liquor always finds its way through the porous borders. Second, illicit production of liquor. Whenever the taxes are very high, people drive the industry downward. So I'm actually surprised a responsible government like UP, which has shown so far very positive this thing, they have done this. And I hope that this is temporary. Maybe this was done to have a psychological impact on the crowds that were, coming to the stores. So once the government sets up a home delivery system, which I had predicted, and as a chairman of CIABC, we had made strong representation, start a home delivery system, start a system whereby online purchasing could be done, start a system where, you can click and collect. You click that, okay, I need so many bottles, and you pay online, and then there is a token that gets generated which tells you, okay, come at between 11 and 12 and collect your bottles. Those kind of sensible decisions, had they been taken, you wouldn't have had these hundreds and thousands of people being lathi charged when they come to buy after a lag of 40-45 days. It was to be expected. After all, even if you open a ration store after closing down for 40 years, the same thing will happen.
Right. So overall, right now, consumers' expectation is could cut their spendings, especially in terms of luxury, due to the impact on their income and discretionary.
Liquor is not a luxury. It's in 40 to 50% is a physiological need.
Absolutely agree. And
second, in today's day and age, it's also a lifestyle. People have to socialize, people have to interact. It's a social lubricant. Now you will say people don't have to get together, but do you believe that people are not drinking? There are Zoom parties I know of which are taking place. People are drinking from their respected homes on the Zoom and saying cheers and celebrating and drinking. So it's not going to, this drinking thing is going to come down or anything.
Right. No. So overall, right now, with these steep excise duty hikes, you have, the hospitality sector as well, which has been impacted on a huge extent. So volumes are going to go down on that front as well. What is the kind of volume decline the hard liquor and beer industry could witness this fiscal on the back of all of these?
I would refrain to answer for the beer industry because I have not looked after it for a very long time. But I can only tell you the beer industry this year is an utter disaster because all the sales take place, 40% of the business happens between March and June. And this year, they have had no sales in March, April, and May. And all the brew that was lying in the in the factories has to be drained out because the brew has a limited shelf life. So nobody is going to buy an old beer. So beer industry for the last, in the next 3-4 months is going to go through a very rough time. And the summer season is gone, which is as far as spirits are concerned, what is your question that what is going to happen? I've already started out by saying that this year, I expect sales of spirits to be 18 to 20% impacted because of this.
Right. So
and with hardly any growth in the spirits, and that effectively means an 18 to 20% decline. Also bear in mind that 18 to 20% of consumption takes place in on-premise outlets, restaurants, bars, permit rooms, and those are now not going to be available for the next 6 to 8 months. I only expect some activity in restaurants with modifications to open around October, November. And that means half the year is gone. So this is going to be a very, very tough year for the spirits industry.
Right. So from here on, around 7 to 8 states where Punjab, West Bengal, Chhattisgarh have already permitted online delivery of liquor. Delhi, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Kerala mulling over the same to shore up revenue.
Delhi and Maharashtra have also conceptually agreed. I think it's a matter of days. Delhi's already started announcing.
Okay.
Yeah. And Maharashtra, I think, will open up. I was told yesterday by some people that they are in talks with companies like Zomato and others to see if they can institutionalize a home delivery system.
Right. So you think home deliveries will be allowed?
I think home deliveries in most states will be allowed. It's a matter of days now.
Right. And do you think it's a viable proposition in terms of home deliveries?
I think it is. I mean, ideally, people do like to go to a store and buy, but imagine a daily wage earner. How will he start working on this home delivery system? He needs to go and buy his dip. He goes with 150 rupees or 200 rupees in the evening, pulls it out of his pocket and buys a nip. Now, that is going to be a hard volume to make up. Home delivery is all right for your and my homes, middle class families. We can afford to order online or on telephone and get it. But how will, a daily wage earner or a blue collar worker get into this whole logistics? I don't know. Let's see.
Right.
But it's a step in the right direction.
It's a step in the right direction. But when are you expecting orders to come? Because you have companies like even Zomato who's given out a proposition that, we should be allowed to start delivering alcohol. Now, if they are allowed, see, now everyone does not have access to online purchases, right? What happens to that migrant community purchase, which is also a lot? How do you think they will react to this? How do you think they will be making?
That's exactly what I said. I said the problem is going to be, while it's a step in the right direction, and at least normal middle class homes and upper incomes, they will definitely love it with this home delivery system and they'll get it. In fact, unofficially in Bombay, a lot of people were supplying liquor home. You could call up your favorite retail shop. He will send, spirits home. It was done unofficially. It wasn't an official sale, but it was happening. Now, these kind of homes will continue getting supplies from the favorite retail shop or use, delivery model like Swiggy or Zomato or Uber Eats and all that. But I'm asking about the migrant labor, the daily wage earner. For them, it's going to be a tough job to I don't know whether Swiggy and all will deliver in chawls where these poor people live, whether they would want liquor to come home in front of their family, because a lot of them drink outside of home. So it's going to be impacted.
Right. And do you think online deliveries will be more expensive?
We don't know yet. It's hard to say. Currently, when I buy any provisions for the house, Swiggy and this one charge me a small fee. Now, whether and who will bear this fee, whether the retailer will bear the fee or the government will bear the fee, it's still to be seen. But the having a facility of home supplies is a very positive step.
Right. And on the migrant community bit as well, Deepak, the thing is, lot of them are out of jobs right now because they've already started moving back to their villages. Some are still stranded. Some of them have been taken care by the state government. That's something which will have an impact on volumes as well right now because all of them are cash strapped.
You're absolutely right. There is the economic activity in the country has been brought down to zero, and it's going to take at least 6 to 8 months for it to limp back. And during this period, the lower end of the market will see two phenomena. One is downgrading. If a consumer was buying, let's say, a whiskey in the regular segment, he will switch to a cheaper whiskey or probably switch to, country spirits.
Right.
But whether the state government, instead of increasing taxes at the lower end of the market, will they reduce taxes is something that's worth examining, because if they want the industry to remain civil, and yet the physiological needs of the people in the lower classes are met, and perhaps some rationalization of taxes have to happen.
Right. So tell me, my last question coming to you over here is taking the kind of brands that, your company also deals with. Now, if online delivery is started, do you think you will be able to pick up on that quantum of volume, or do you think the volume decline versus the industry, where would you stand for FY21?
Well, I don't think, in spite of home delivery, volumes will reach the level they were in the month of February, March. Because it's only right now, even somebody like my wife, who's very educated and everything else, started buying things online or ordering on the phone. And it's going to take a while for people to switch to this, system. Of course, liquor is perhaps a stronger need and stronger desire, and maybe more people will buy liquor online, but it's still, the jury is still out on that. But it's definitely a huge convenience that will happen.
Right. And lastly, what do you think that the government should be doing? Yes, online availability is something which is one thing. But second, on the second hand, anything that you think the industry needs from the government, especially because, again, on the production side, you will have to look at social distancing. So, employee salaries, anything that the government needs to look at.
Well, there are several things that the government should and could do. Whether they will or not, I cannot answer. But please, the state government, we have to pay taxes on an annual basis for a manufacturing license, which can be as high as 25 lakhs to a crore of rupees. Okay. Or sometimes even more. Sometimes it's linked to volume that you produce. Now, given that 2 months have been lost, there should be some prorating of this license fee. As of now, no government has agreed to do that.
Okay.
Though a representation has been made by every company, including CIABC. So that's one concession we would see. I think the government needs to, they have, introduced these very high taxes in the last few days. Now, whether this is a temporary measure, I hope it is, because then only the volume will limp back. Right. Otherwise, it's going to be something that the state governments are going to realize that they're killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. Because if the volumes don't happen, what's the point of increasing the taxes?
Correct.
So that's the kind of support that one would see. And also reduce the formalities, all the paperwork that we do. The kind of, now that everything is moving digital, the government must, for example, first I go and apply for what is called a permit when I want to ship stocks to a customer. Once I do that, it's a cumbersome process. When I get the permit, as they call it, to dispatch stocks to the particular outlet where I'm selling, then I have to decide that I have to get what is called an excise verification certificate. That means whether the goods for which duty has already been paid, whether goods have reached or not, and need a verification certificate. So I have to have people running around trying to get these verification certificates, which also is a cumbersome process, and we have to unnecessarily, be spending more time on trying to complete this formality than to run the business. And I think these are the kind of things the government must ease and do away with. These are, rules that were set in the British time. The world has moved on, whereas we seem to be lingering in the past. So that needs to be changed.
Right. So if the government also allows, online deliveries right now in terms of the lockdown period during COVID, do you think there is a possibility that it will be taken up by other states to continue doing this even post-COVID, which probably could be a game changer for the industry in the longer term?
I think the delivery system will perhaps continue beyond, and will become more sophisticated, more modern, and it will continue going forward. So I think it is the initial hurdle that we have to pass, and CIABC invested a lot of time and effort in trying to get this rule come in, and now slowly other states will also start adopting this, and that's a step in the very right direction.
Right. All right, Deepak, pleasure speaking to you. We will come back to you as well. I think once the online deliveries are started to understand what's the state of business as well, whether production has picked up, whether sales has picked up, and what the outlook looks like, whether we see any changes for FY21.
God willing, inshallah, things will pick up and get restored.
Absolutely, absolutely. So right now, at least the motto is stay home, stay safe, and hope you're safe.
This industry employs over directly and indirectly over 25 lakh people.
I'm sure.
And I can tell you, I know that a lot of companies are thinking in terms of trimming down, and this could have a huge impact on employment if the industry doesn't limp back to normalcy.
I'm sure. I think a lot of industries like this need some support that needs to come in as well in all forms, especially that the sales need to start picking up. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you from Nirmal Bang as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure talking to you.